Good morning. I want to share a passage with you this morning that has been tremendously helpful to me in my chronic pain journey. Because so many times I've tried to rely upon my own strength and try to get through this on my own. And that's not what God intends for us. So the passage is 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10. And I just pray that this is a blessing to somebody else because this has been a hard lesson in my journey for me to learn. And once I got this down, it really changed how I go through chronic pain and how I learn to rely upon Him. So 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10, it's super windy here in Chico. We've got a north wind, so don't mind me. You'll hear the wind, I'm sure. And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So as Paul, Paul had a thorn in his flesh, in his side, and he asked God 3 times, take this from me. And God said, no, my grace is sufficient for you. So why would we think that we are any different? There is something that God is trying to teach us through our chronic pain. What is it? Is it to be more Christ-like? You can guarantee that one. Is it so that you can help somebody else? Yes. Is it so that we can be more humble? Absolutely. Is it to learn to rely upon Him and not our own strength? You bet your bum it is. So I want to read this devotional that I'm reading to you because this just speaks to so many of us who are day in and day out in a chronic illness and crying out to Him and saying, Lord, remove this. And yet you don't see Him removing it. And so you get frustrated. I know, because I've been there. And so this devotion talks about when facing adversity or hardship, some Christians ask, why is this happening to me? How many times I've asked that. Others think that they are being really spiritual when they suffer in silence or say things like, God knows what He's doing. He doesn't have to explain this to me, which is true. He doesn't, right? It is true that our Heavenly Father knows what He is doing and does not owe us any explanations, but that doesn't mean we should dismiss our hardships or avoid thinking about what He might want to accomplish through it. So if we can change our mindset and think of, it's so easy for us to have a poor pity me party. I know, because I did it for over 10 years. Angry, poor pity me, I'm going through this. But if we might stop and think about, what is God trying to accomplish through this? What is the purpose? What possibly could He be doing through this? So on the contrary, the Bible tells us to remember that God is sovereign, even over our adversities. Ecclesiastes 7:14. This was the case in today's reading where Paul says God sent an affliction, which he describes as a messenger of Satan, to keep him from exalting himself. The apostle admits pride is a problem for him and acknowledges that God is justified in dealing with him to correct it. A lot of times, so when originally, people used to tell me how prideful I was as I was the early stages of going through chronic pain, and I got really angry and thought, I'm not prideful. But the more I thought about it, I really was being prideful. And so when we go through chronic pain and we submit to Him and we think, how can He change that? It's humbling. He humbles us. We become more Christ-like. And then we learn that to rely upon His strength and that we can help somebody else through what they're going through. So such a truthful confession does not eliminate suffering, but sweetens it until we can say with Paul, therefore, I am well content with weakness, with insults, with distresses, with persecutions, with difficulties, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. God doesn't intend us to go through our chronic pain alone. In fact, He doesn't want us to. He wants us to rely upon His strength. Let Him get us through the day. When we try to do it on our own, we become frustrated and tired and angry and have anxiety and all of these other things. But if we rely upon His strength and let Him get us through it, it's being submissive, it's humbling ourselves, and it takes the burden off of us, and it allows God to handle it because He can handle it. We can't, but He can. So I hope that this is just a blessing to you. Don't think that there's not still some days that I cry out, Lord, how much longer? Or Lord, how about today? No pain. But really, it keeps me tethered close to Him. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I would walk away from the Lord and try to handle this all on my own if I didn't have this thorn in my flesh to show me how weak I am, and then I can rely upon His strength. So I hope that this is a help and a blessing to you. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. And please know that I'm praying for each and every one of you. I understand what you're going through. I understand the unhealthy eating because we're hurting or we're tired or we're just frustrated. I get that. And God gets it too. That's the amazing thing. Like, He understands without you even saying anything what you're going through. And He just wants to hold you and help you through this. So read 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10. It's a help and a blessing. Trust me on that. All right, guys, have a beautiful day. God bless.